Johnny, welcome to Radio Activa. It's a great pleasure having you with us, man.
I'm very happy to be here, thank you.
Third time in Colombia.
Yeah.
Impressive, 2 stadiums.
Yeah.
Plans have been managed to do that. I have to ask you, since you've been many times around the world and several people have been talking about this, how do you build a tour from a sustainable point of view?
Well, it's very, very, very hard, to be perfectly honest. Chris talked about it in an interview in, I think, 2019 or 19. And from that point, loads of people contacted us with different ideas. And so then we had to get someone who knew what they were doing to sort of go through those ideas, find out which ones might work. And then we start trying all these ideas and slowly now we're in a process of sort of working out which ones are really good, which ones we need to change a little bit, and which ones we need to improve. And at the moment we're about halfway there.
Okay, but it's great. And still, from thinking the idea and making it through, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you also about the record. From My Universe to People of the Pride in this latest album, there's a lot of different Coldplay stages from my point of view. I wanted to ask you, how was the process for this record, Music of the Spirit? Because if you go through the whole album, which seems a little bit, from my point of view again, like a concept thing,
yes,
concept record, I feel like I listened to 3-4 different Coldplays that I've heard in previous records. Do I make myself clear?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. I mean, the process of making the record, it definitely was we had a concept, but it was a sort of episodic recording process. Because of the pandemic, we could only get together for short periods of time in certain countries that would let us all fly into them, because at different times, different people were locked down. Then, we'd try and go somewhere and then they'd lock down and then we wouldn't be able to go, or someone would get COVID, or, so it was we'd record in like 2-week bursts over a period of about a year and a half. So I can see how maybe different moods came out in those recording sessions. And
Did you get COVID?
Yeah, I did.
Was it hard?
It wasn't fun. I didn't get it terribly, but
I got it too. I was just curious because I also wanted to know, coming out with the first single for the record called My Universe, which is both like a global concept universe, but it's also mine, which is a personal thing.
Yes.
And we all sort of were in our own universe, locked inside our houses with our record collections. Sure. So I wanted to know a bit about that. Is there any relationship with the idea of My Universe coming out after the pandemic and all that?
Well, everything we do is sort of fed into by what's going on around us, but I think I'm pretty sure the sort of seed of that song was started maybe even before the pandemic. So, which it came from this guy we worked with for years called Bill, and he had this just little sort of loop of a song, and we were like, oh, that's amazing, and we play on top of that, and then Chris got this song just in one sitting, really. Okay. And then we spent the next year and a half trying to work out how to make it work.
It's just that maybe during the pandemic, I don't know, I tend to overthink things. So I started going through the records, the Coldplay records, since a new one's coming. So I like to go through the whole discography. That's just a freak thing I like to do. And I noticed something in the last records. I kind of feel like every time there's one with a very fun, energetic, happy energy, there's another one which is kind of dark, which I like. I really like Everyday Life, but then we have Music of the Spheres. I really like Ghost Stories, but we also have Head Full of Dreams. It's like a balance. Is this a conscious?
I think it is. I think that often, certainly with Everyday Life and Music of the Spheres, they came out together really in our minds. We could only do Everyday Life knowing that in a year or so we'd be doing Music of the Spheres, and because it just felt like the right thing to do at the time, and do a record that we weren't really going to tour, and then do a sort of more outward looking record.
Okay, because I loved Everyday Life, but it seemed like a compliment, so that it impressed me.
Okay, well, thank you.
And a very good point to be. It seems to be a very important part of the current shows, the moment when you play a song that means something to each country. How do you pick those songs?
Well, I think we ask around what people think, you know, get lots of opinions, and then we just listen to different music on you know, whatever streaming service, or we already know some great songs from places or great artists. And then Chris has to often learn a new language. Luckily, he can speak Spanish quite well, but it was harder when we were in Poland or even Brazil. You know, Portuguese is a tricky language.
I remember when the Live in Buenos Aires album came out and you guys played the Música Ligera from Soda Stereo.
Yes.
And since then, every Latin country wants you guys to play something. So just so you know. I also have to ask you about the shows coming in. Congratulations, 10 sold-out shows in Buenos Aires too. That's impressive, more than Soda Stereo, Roger Waters, the Rolling Stones. They've never reached 10 consecutive shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did my research. So I've heard also that you're going to make a projection of that show. How's that going to be?
Well, we're going to film, I think, the third one and show it in cinemas, hopefully around the world. So we're really excited about it. You know, we couldn't believe we got to 10, and we can't believe we got to 2 in Colombia. You know, we feel so grateful to everyone who's coming and buying tickets, and you know.
Well, that is one of the most interesting things about the shows we're about to see here in Bogota, because here not many bands manage to come and repeat sold-out shows. Metallica did that, Foo Fighters did that, Roger Waters did that, and those are the ones I can remember.
We're in good company.
Just by themselves, you know, like they're not coming on a festival or something, and they all did sold-out shows. So 2 sold-out shows that fast here in Colombia, that's historic.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I also wanted to ask you, I'm a fan of the band since Parachutes meant a lot to me. I was just getting into high school and this was the record. It was my first job in radio. So I was like, oh, have you heard this new band called Coldplay? That was me. How do you feel with the musical evolution of the band? I always feel there's something changing and you seem to be trying something different.
Well, I think that firstly we are always interested in new music and new ideas and what's going on in the world, and also we never really looked back. Maybe we're doing it a bit more now. We're 20 years older or whatever, but certainly for the first 15, 20 years, we've never ever thought, oh, that's the one we've got to do again.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? It's always like, oh, what's the next thing? What are we going to do next? And in a way, you know, I always think, oh, this one's so much different from our last one, and then I go and listen to it 2 years later, and I was like, oh, it's still us. Okay. You know, you never really escape yourself, but we do try and push ourselves in somewhere.
But it's interesting, you say it's still us, but I can't name that many bands that are just the same 4 guys that started the band, you know? If you think about it, there aren't that many bands who still have their same lineup when they started.
No, not very many at all.
That?
Yes, yes.
And it happens also in our music. How do you balance guitar and piano when it comes to composing a song? You know, those are both very important instruments in Coldplay.
Yes. Well, it can be tricky because piano is it has a lot of frequencies. It's getting very technical now, but there's a lot of frequencies, and so when you're playing along top of, when you're playing the guitar on top of the piano, you usually have to find a little bit of space, and it's not often that big, you know, where it's quite high up usually, where you can hear it. Otherwise, it gets lost in a sort of mush.
Okay, but. Like when you guys write a song, which you also share the credit for every song, which I think it's great. When it comes to composing the song, it goes first through the piano, then through the guitar.
It depends really. Sometimes Chris starts the song on a guitar, acoustic guitar. Sometimes piano, sometimes he just has a synth sound, or other times he has a loop that someone has given him or he's heard, or you know, just so there's all sorts of different ways, you know. And then sometimes, like Guy and Will have started a song like Magic or something, they had that little bass and drum loop.
It's just that you make it sound so easy.
It isn't.
It shouldn't. Okay. I have to finish the interview now, but it's been a pleasure.
It's so lovely to speak to you.
Thank you very much. Our pleasure. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Colombia. It's great. Thanks for taking the time for us here in Radio Activa.
Hi, I'm Johnny from Coldplay, and you're listening to Radio Activa, the Rock Planet.